Alright, welcome back. So we've got the ability to hop to different places, but really we can't do much until we've got sign in, right? So if you go to the sign in route right now, it just says sign in works. Let's start by fixing it up, and we'll start by just making some HTML. Just to kind of glance at the HTML that we're going to make here. So it says you must be signed in to use this app, and then there's a sign in with Google button. So that's what we're after. So let's go back over to our code. Make sure that there's nothing that needs to be checked in, so it looks pretty good. And then we'll go into the sign in area and we'll go into the HTML first. So where it says sign in works, we want to do some more stuff. So just like we've done many times in this class, we'll start off by kind of making a card. Inside the card, we'll make a card title area, so MD card title. And we really should make a MD card content as well, but I'm feeling lazy, so I'm just going to keep it simple. Card title does add some HTML, some CSS that we do want though. I would just say you must be signed in to use this app. Cool. So we've got a little title there, and then we also want a button on here. Again, this button should probably be in an MD card content, but the MD card content doesn't really do much other than add padding, and I'm just not that worried about it. This button probably needs at least an MD button on it, just so it kind of gets a little bit of the material design look. And for now, we'll just say sign in with Google, and then we'll just kind of see what we've got. It's going to look pretty horrible right now. So it says you must be signed in to use this app. Notice that nothing's centered. The card is smashing all the way to the edges. You can see a slight color difference between the card and the background. By the way, I didn't really mention this before, but the background, if you go into the styles.css, it does have this slightly off-white color in mine, this DDD. And so we need to start fixing some of these things up. So the first thing I want to do to fix things up is I want to use our buddy Flex Layout. And it's a reminder, Flex Layout you should have done the import for back in the setup initially. So what we want to do here is we're going to just add a div so that this can be our parent div. And we're going to make a layout align of center to kind of start with. And what this is going to do is this is going to center up the card itself on the page. Now you can center the card, but it's going to need a little bit of padding as well. So we'll add some more padding. So that's going to center the card, and we just put on center to keep it simple. Now the contents that are inside the card, we can go ahead and put a FX layout on those as well. And we'll make this one a column layout because it's kind of like the words and then there's the button. And we can put an FX layout align, spelled it wrong, layout align, there we go, of none center. Cool, and so now we can see kind of if this does anything useful. So we can just kind of see where we're at. And we can see that it's going much better. So the contents, the card kind of wrapped to the contents whenever it started using Flexbox rules. And you can see that overall it's going pretty good. There should probably be a little margin away from the top here. So let's just add a rule. So let's add some CSS to our card here. So within our sign-in component CSS, we'll just say that all MD cards, we'll just go ahead and give it some padding and a margin. I think in my notes I used 30 and 10, and then for the margin I used 20 and 40. Feel free to use whatever you think looks good, but I was just kind of like setting it apart a little bit there. I think the padding actually reduced the side padding, which is fine. I'm not too worried about it. You can change it to your heart's content. If you want a little more padding, there you can bump it up to 20 and set a little bit more. The next thing I want to do, and this is just kind of a minor little thing, is on mobile, it looks fine. It says you must be signed in to use this app, but it kind of wrapped onto two lines there. Just for giggles, I'm gonna on mobile say less. I'm just gonna say you must be signed in on mobile, and so that's just kind of like a little change to do just for fun. There's a lot of ways to do tricks like that. I'm going to use the Flex Layout, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have two spans here. So I'm going to have a span that says the whole thing, you must be signed in to use this app, and then I'm going to have another span that just says you must be signed in. And I'm going to show one on mobile, and I'm going to show the other everywhere else, right? And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set a rule for FX show. And by default, they're both going to be set to false. So that's kind of the default rule. So if you were to run it now, it just wouldn't say anything, right? And then we're going to choose to show one. So fx show dot greater than extra small. And then the other one we're going to show only on extra small. And now you could, if you wanted to be very verbose, you could say equals true. I guess that's got readability value. You don't have to say the equals true part. It does default to equaling true. And so now you can see that on mobile it says you must be signed in. And then if we leave mobile, it says you must be signed in to use that app. So to be honest, that's more like a little trick than anything like super important. But it is kind of neat that you can use flex layout for things like that as well, which is cool. All right, the next thing I want to do is I want to make my button not be terrible. I want my button to kind of have this like blue look to it and things like that. There's probably elegant ways to do it, but to be honest, it's pretty easy to get that image, that sign in with Google image, and it's pretty easy to add the CSS just to kind of roll your own. And that's what we're going to do. So in order to get that image, if you go to the doc for Quick Chat, you can see that it says on here you'll need to download these image files. Also put the image files directly above for you. And you can see that we've got this Google sign in dark, Google sign in dark pressed, and missing photo. So these things will be useful for us. So I'm going to go ahead and download these, and I'm going to go ahead and dump them right into my assets folder, slightly off screen there, but you can see it says assets. And when I do that, and then I show it in Finder, you can see that it's got a zip file called images in the assets folder. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unzip it and then throw away the zip file, and now I've got just the structure I want. So inside assets, I've got images, and I've got these various images. If I come back over in here, you can see that it's auto-updated to show me these things. Then I also got this weird git keep file. Not sure what that was all about. So I've got these images, so sign in with Google pressed, and then missing photo, so that's great. And so what I want to do is actually just take off the word sign in with Google, because that's going to be part of the image now, right? And you can add an image tag inside of a button, but I think it's actually a little bit easier just to do it with pure CSS. So I'm just going to go ahead and call this my Google button. And then my Google button is going to be styled with CSS. So I'm going to say Google button. And that's within the card. Since this is a sassy CSS, you could put it like, inside the card. But to be honest, you don't have to, because if it's an ID, it's pretty obviously going to match, right? And then I'm going to kind of get it to where I can kind of see both at the same time here. So I'm going to kind of get my button over here and my code over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of like start adding some CSS rules. So the big one that I want to add is background image. So that's a handy CSS feature. And what we're going to do is we're going to say URL, and we're going to give it some URL. And the URL we're going to give it is /assets/images /Google sign in dark .png. So now that's the name of it. And as soon as you hit save, you should see that change happen over here. Looks like it did not do squat. Maybe I need to do a little bit more. Let's go ahead and add the width and height rules. So I'm going to call it 191 and 46 px. So now that I've added a width and height rule, hopefully it'll show up. Cool, so it showed up. It's still not looking very good, but it's doing something. Those numbers are ones that I picked because they're the same aspect ratio as the image, they're just smaller. Let's add a couple more things. So let's go ahead and set the background color to be transparent, just so that, if the image doesn't take up the whole thing, the background color doesn't get in the way. Let's go ahead and say background, which one do I want? Background size, I believe. I want size to be cover. I think that one will have a big impact on it, which would be nice. There we go, that's looking good. And now for good measure, let's go ahead and add a background repeat of no repeat, because I guess by default it does like a tiling thing, which I don't want. And so that's actually looking pretty good. The only thing I'm going to add is I'm going to add another rule for when it's pressed. And so the way this works is with sassy CSS, you can say ampersand. So this means like, hey, apply this to the match that I've got so far. and add on the additional pseudo class of active. That's when it's clicked. And what we're going to do then is we're going to switch the background image to Google sign in dark underscore pressed. And that'll kind of give us a little effect as you're pressing the button. So as you save it up, in order to test that one, you have to kind of like click it. So like when you click it, you can kind of see that it changes a little bit on click there. And people expect that kind of thing, right? So like, you know, they get a little feedback as they're clicking this thing. Cool, so I think that our button looks pretty good. We've got it to where on mobile it says you must be signed in. And then as soon as you get wide enough, I guess I need to go a little wider here. It'll says you must be signed in to use this app. So that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and check in the HTML here. Should be pretty straightforward. So it looks like I had a couple things from before. I'd forgotten to actually add flex layouts. So I had to go add that real quick. So this is the sign in HTML. Cool. And so I think that that looks pretty good. Come back next time and we'll do the actual sign in part. See you then. Bye.